Now, when I knew this lady 15 years ago or thereabouts, I was teaching at the University of Ulster, and one of my pupils in the postgraduate journalism course was Julie Savage, as you were then, but you're now Julie Comiskey.
Yes.
And you've written a book, and the book is going, it's on the internet and it's there for you. And you're working at home in Banbridge in St Mary's School.
Yeah, indeed, yes.
How has things shaken down for you in the 13, 14 years since we last saw each other?
Everything's been going great. I worked in journalism after the Masters. I worked for probably about 10 years in print and broadcast.
Yes.
I worked for the BBC and UTV and just local papers online. Local papers just at home.
At home,
in the Banbridge Chronicle, which was a great experience and great education. So I had been making documentaries then and writing documentaries just when work really dried up. So commissioning and things like that sort of had dried up. So I found myself out of work then, and I had always wanted to write creatively for a long time. But the right story never seemed to come. It had eluded me for a long time. And then about a week before Christmas, I was out of work and I was sitting at home, and the plot for Solstice just popped into my head.
What a wonderful name, Solstice.
So,
and what is the plot?
Well, basically the plot is about a young girl who's just on the cusp of adulthood. She's a young aspiring journalist, and her mentor, who's a polymath, he's a retired astronomer and Arthur Delphian, and he is murdered basically by a global elite organisation called the Hellfire Club.
Was he getting too close to fundamental truths?
Yes, he is actually head of an ancient order called the Ancient Order of the Golden Dawn, which I'm sure you've heard of, like W.B. Yeats and A.E. and all, Russell or whatever were involved in that. So it's really a play on that, and it dips into Irish mythology, the story of the Dadan and the two Dadanan and that whole pantheon. So it's a wee bit of everything. It's sort
why am I thinking Da Vinci Code?
Well, I suppose when you think about it, all those things. I wish it was as good as the Da Vinci Code.
Maybe that's to come.
You know, so that's the general idea. So basically he is murdered. She knows nothing of her true self and a role to play in it, and she's sort of propelled into this world that is completely alien to her, where magic exists, as in practical magic, where ancient orders exist, and I don't want to give too much away. No. So she is propelled into this work, and like I say, she's on the cusp of adulthood, so she's gone through a lot of changes. So this is really about her own personal alchemy and her own spiritual progression and awakening.
I wonder to what extent your research has shown you that these secret situations perhaps do exist in the world.
Well, I think even if you look, I suppose, at global politics, I definitely think they do. I love a good, and I don't even like using the word conspiracy theory, but I love a good conspiracy theory.
Yeah, but I mean,
because somewhere the truth lies in the grey areas, you know?
And maybe the truth is that things are, that we're all being subjected to the plans of cunning governocrats.
We all think slavery's abolished, but I think we are slaves, and
we are, and we don't know it.
And we don't know it. Well, some do. Some are wakening up, So this is really what it's about, and it's a wee bit of everything, you know. I suppose her turmoil and her fight, you know, against this, and finally, I think she succumbs to her own nature and who she really is, which will transpire in the book.
Now, how does one go about the business of writing a book? You've done this. People dream about it.
Yes, doing it and doing it well, I suppose, are two completely different things.
Well, but knowing you, I would have thought you've done it well.
Well, you know, I was diagnosed with dyslexia after I'd even finished my Masters. I'd gone through my degree in English and Politics, and then I went on to do the Master. Well, it was a postgrad, and then they gave us the Masters option at the end, if you remember. So went on to do that, and I remember even during that time, like if you had to just give me a word or two, or a wee snippet, I could have a full page written for you, but the like of like press releases and stuff, I couldn't put those and sequence them together, and you know, so even my homophones and all those things I was noticing even after that time that I was having a lot of difficulty with, and as a result I went to get tested, and it transpired then that I was dyslexic. So it was difficult in the sense, creatively it probably wasn't, because I was writing about a lot of things that I was really interested in.
And you've no inhibitions. You felt, I'm going to do this.
Well, you do have inhibitions. You know, the ego is the biggest enemy of creativity, you know, because you'll always have that little voice tapping your shoulder. No,
No,
I don't
no.
think you can do. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. You're not really a writer. And for me, writing and words were something that I was so passionate about. I
Isn't
just
it
love.
odd that you were passionate and that you turn out to be dyslexic?
Yeah, well, that's the irony. That's just me. I
But
don't
I mean,
ever do anything the
dyslexia
easy way.
is just dyslexia cannot hurt, challenge, remove creativity.
No, in
It
fact, it's
actually
probably the
enhances
opposite. It enhances
Yeah.
it. It does. So that's what I had to learn. I had to. It was nearly like a weight off my shoulders. It was like, I'm not stupid.
Yes.
I'm not. I can't. So I went on anyway, and I wrote, and probably on and off. I wasn't overly disciplined. So probably in the process of about 3-4 years, draft and redrafting. And again, with the dyslexia, it was very difficult to me to self-edit.
Yes,
I
of
really
course.
relied on the help of other people, and I didn't have the money to invest £1,000 in having someone edit that
Yes,
book. So
yeah.
I suppose I really would have loved to have a mentor. I'd love to have had someone that I could go to and talk to and about things like that and have a look. But friends were really, really good, and they chipped in.
Isn't the danger, though, with an editor, that the editor will do a line-by-line edit of your work, make suggestions, and suddenly you find that your personality has gone from the work to some extent,
Yes,
and the
yes.
personality of the editor
Yes.
squeezes in.
Yeah, and even your own writing style, that was something that I had to work at getting comfortable with,
Yes.
and how I choose to write. I suppose I would almost think when I write, it's very visual in my head. It's almost like a film screen flickering, like a film tape almost. That's just how I see
maybe
it.
part of the dyslexia.
Well, it may be, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
because
just
I've
how
heard that
I
said
choose to see
before,
it. Yeah.
that you have vibrant imagery in your mind.
And it's probably putting that down, and getting that across. So, the book's over 120,000 words, 62 chapters.
Goodness
and
gracious.
I should be very, very proud of myself even for getting that far.
You should
And
indeed.
I think I need to start maybe accepting that, but naturally you want people to buy it. And to enjoy it even more, but the reviews
Yeah.
so far have been really, really good, and
Yeah.
it's those wee perks that keep you going and keep you going, so.
But I mean, you didn't do it for the money.
No, I do because I love to write, but of course, who wouldn't want to be
If
the
money
next
comes, it
big
comes.
thing?
Yeah,
That'd be
if it
great.
comes, it comes.
I think what money would give you and what sales would give you is the opportunity to do it full time.
Yes,
To make
yeah.
your living out of something that you absolutely adore.
But you alluded to it earlier, the business about the discipline to do it, to sit down in
Yeah.
your garret and to spend 3 or 4 hours writing.
Yeah.
That was difficult for you, was it?
No, it wasn't difficult at all. In fact, it was quite miraculous. Some days you don't even know where it came from.
Yeah.
You were sitting and when you read over stuff and you think, how did I write that, or where did
Yeah.
that come from? And sometimes you feel that it didn't come from
Yeah.
me. It came from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it was a really good experience and a very cathartic experience.
Yes.
And the freedom just to create, and even when you were picking other stories or picking news, obviously there's a certain amount of realism in it. That's the best fiction. You're mingling reality
Yeah.
with fiction, and that's the best. That's what I like to read.
Did the process of those, how many thousand words?
About 120.
120,000 words. Did that process of creating those 120,000 words, did that change Julie?
Yeah, it certainly did. I think even giving myself the recognition, for me personally, it's probably enough is never enough. I don't know what it is I need to prove to myself, or if I need to prove anything to myself.
You were kind of always like that, as I remember you.
Yeah, that's
from
so true.
university.
Yeah,
you were
that's
like
very
that.
true.
But I take great joy at seeing the way you've flowered and the way you've tackled these demons. And
Well, facing
you're
your
strong.
fears, I think, is the hardest thing to do maybe in
Of
life,
course it is, yeah.
and to keep getting on after you've had knocks, which we all have. We all go through those things. But I think, certain synchronicities, if you want to call them that, how, because maybe one door closed, how literally one had opened, that brought you to that point.
Yes.
And the people that I met along the way that allowed me to create these characters and this world,
Where did you do the writing?
I did just at home
Yeah.
in my sunroom, and
In your sunroom?
yeah.
So
that's
you
just where I
created a
said.
nice space.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
And,
it's like a
And
sacred
the-
space to me. I have my wee altar and everything in there.
Have you indeed?
Yes, I do.
When you say an altar to what? Are you a Buddhist?
No, I'm not a Buddhist. I suppose I'm a wee bit eclectic. I like a wee bit of everything. I'm very greedy,
Yeah,
I'll take a piece of this. Paganism has always really, really appealed to me. I've dipped my toes in. I've never really
Yeah.
dived in, and that's a very, very broad spectrum. But I think for me, the fact that
it
it
is.
was so open to the female
Yeah.
divinity, that really drew me.
Yes,
you know,
of
with
course.
where Catholicism was
But I
far
mean,
too
you're only
constricting.
finding out now what I've known all my life.
Yes.
Women are gods.
Of course we are. We all
I've
are.
no doubt
As
about
Blake
that at
says, we
all.
are all divine.
We're all divine.
You and me and everyone.
We are indeed. Now, there's a notion in your head it's going to be a trilogy.
Yes, it definitely.
And what's
going
the
to be a
linkage
trilogy.
between the
Well,
first and the second and the second and the third?
The first one is solstice, obviously, and the spiritual connotations with the solstice is this idea of renewal and the return of the light, and you know.
And does that mean it's a happy story?
Well, it is. It is, and it isn't. Yes, you know,
Does it
is.
end well?
Yeah, you know what? I'm such a Disney freak, so it always will have to have a happy ending. But it does end well, maybe for humanity. The main characters, it might be slightly different, but the
Yes.
bigger picture, it'll end well. So I know exactly where it's going to end. How I'm going to get there is another thing.
This is the second.
This is the
book.
trilogy. It will
Yeah.
be the third one. I know how it's going to end, and I've started the second one, which will be called Equinox.
Equinox.
And the equinox, as you know, is a time of balance between the light and the dark. So
Yeah.
we're just
But I mean,
pivoting on this.
where is this coming from?
Who knows?
Like, this is crazy stuff. It's
It is.
wonderfully
Thanks.
crazy. It's wonderfully crazy. But I
Yeah.
mean, if I were to sit down, I can write. You know, I've been through all of what you're talking about in my writing, but I put it down to madness on my part.
Well, maybe I'm
And
mad too, Rowan.
Sure, maybe you
Sure,
are.
we all
but
need to be a wee bit
a
crazy,
wee bit
don't
crazy to do
we?
it.
I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah.
It's just something that started, and you have that fear. What if you can't do it again? What if you can't
What
do it
if you
again?
can't do it again?
You know,
Yeah.
and then once you sit down and write, it just comes. You know. it
What
does.
about you allude to the spirituality of the work. What about your own spirituality in your life at the moment? You were raised traditionally, perhaps,
Yeah.
in one of the Christian denominations.
yeah.
So where are you now spiritually?
Well, I think I just do my own thing now.
And what does that mean?
Well, I think I'm just happy to not be looking outside for something all the time. That God or the goddess, whoever it is inside. I believe.
You believe
you
there is
know.
a God?
Yes, I do. Not a personal God, no.
No,
As
what kind
Einstein
of
said,
God?
not a personal God, not someone sitting on a cloud or a throne somewhere. But that maybe works for some people. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah, what does work for you?
Well, I
what kind
think-
of God works for you?
I suppose compassion, the revolution is love. That's what I believe, Rowan.
The revolution
Is love.
Is love.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do.
that's
Loving
great.
your neighbour.
It's great.
Loving yourself first.
Well, sure, you can't
know.
love anyone until you
No,
love
love yourself, you
It's
know.
it's the hardest partner you'll ever have is yourself.
And I think there's been a real change, a sea of change, you know. I think even like through the Occupy movements would really, really interest me, and that will feature in the second book as Lola Page, the protagonist, the main
Yeah.
heroine. It moves on to New York then. And that really interests me, the whole Occupy Wall Street and the
Aye.
Occupy Love movement and that whole grassroots sea of change, you can see it.
There's a man, we talked to him here, and he's Peter Emerson in Belfast. You
Right,
should talk
yes.
to Peter, because he's a huge man. He travels the world on his expeditions, and he comes back always to Belfast, to Rhubarb Cottage. That's his
beautiful.
place. And the man who's the connection with him is Tommy Sands.
Yes,
You must go and
the
see
music,
Tommy,
yes,
meet
yes.
Tommy, and whatever. But the business of the fear of drying up. How do you sustain yourself in your writing? Because it's a dark time when you sit down in front of the
yes.
empty page.
I haven't got there yet. You know, what it is for me, I suppose, is cultivating the right words. You realise how limited your vocabulary is sometimes, you know, when you sit down and you're maybe having to, like the other night, I must have sat for an hour trying to, you know, articulate the sound of corduroy trousers rubbing together. I needed to find a word. Whistled was the final one I came up with, but it wasn't very original.
Kind of junketiness.
Yeah,
That
those
kind
are the things
yeah.
that,
But I don't
that keep
think
me awake
I
at
don't think
night.
there's any paucity of vocabulary. I think for all of us there's a paucity of ideas and spark.
Ideas are never a problem.
Yeah.
That engine, but once you get into it just seems to flow for me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
That mightn't always be the case, but at the minute it is, and I'm just making the most of it.
Yeah.
So
Corrugation of corduroy, that comes to mind as well. Things like that,
Yeah.
you know.
I should
So-
have texted you, Ronan. Owen.
I don't think so. We'll just keep going. But the experience at university was good for you, was
Yes,
it?
it was great. You know, I did my degree at Queen's in English and Politics. Then, you know, then all I wanted ever to do was be a political journalist, Middle Eastern correspondent for The Guardian. That was my dream
Yeah.
job. You know, but what I did, I felt quite disenfranchised from writing, because to me that was something only intelligent people did. It wasn't something people like me did, you know.
You're the girl got the degree.
You know, well, you know, and that's just how I felt. And then when I went on to do my masters, then, you know, again, that was my ambition. But
Yes.
journalism, as much as I loved it, you know, it just kept spitting me out. It just wasn't right for me, and I understand that now because it's brought me to where I need to be now. You
So
know,
I think you're in a very substantial place
Yeah.
now, because you know you have the 100 and whatever words, 1,000 words behind you. Like that's a mighty achievement.
and I just play that down. I suppose I don't really feel that until maybe people are not buying it. I say buying because that's an endorsement
Yeah.
of your product. You know,
Yeah,
that's
of
really what
course.
I have at the moment. And you don't write. You do, as much as you write for yourself, you want people to read it. You want
do, of
people.
course.
You know, I want to be able to create what J.K. Rowling is, and
Yeah.
Tolkien, and David Baldacci, and all those authors
Yeah.
that I love.
Yeah.
That have created for
Well,
me.
you've given us a hint at the plot, but your style of writing now. Talk to me about your style.
That's such a strange question because I don't really know. People talk to me about my style of
Do
writing.
you go long sentences?
Yes, I do. Like, I wouldn't even put me in the same category as George R. Martin or anything like that. I would love to be able to write like that. The Game of Thrones. I love those
So
books.
long sentences.
Yes, I'm not a friend of the full stop.
No, you just keep it rolling.
I know, which is
I'm
a
not a friend
problem.
of the full stop. You keep
But
it rolling.
yeah, we keep it rolling. But it is very.
Is it conversational?
Yes, it is. Well, I suppose it's more descriptive, more visual, emotive. Maybe
Yeah.
is what you try to be. Like Joyce was the king of writing about the mundane and the tiniest things. Like going to the toilet. He can make
Yeah.
that into an art form.
Absolutely,
Edith
absolutely.
Wharton is another one who's fantastic. She wrote The Age of Innocence, and who can just write about the tiny things, and that's so difficult.
Yeah.
So those are things that I would like to be able to do at some stage.
So you've solstice. The last one is going. The next
Well,
one's
the next
going
one's
to be
Equinox, and I need to think of something along
third
the.
one.
Yeah, I haven't thought of the name. Like I said, I know where it's going to end and
Yeah.
how it's going to end, but.
Your hobby. You're an astronomer.
Yes, and I love football. I'm a huge football fan. So.
Who do you support?
Well, Banbridge Town, of course, and Liverpool are my Premier League team.
Banbridge Town.
Yeah.
And Liverpool.
Yes,
as
and
well.
I've given that to the main character too. Lola
Yeah.
is a great footballer and a Liverpool fan. So you'll never walk alone. It's her motto, like mine. That's
Yeah.
a mantra. It's not just a motto. So
Mantra.
it means a great deal to me. So yeah.
So the business then of reaching forward in your career, you're not rushing anything.
Well, I am impatient, but
Yeah.
I think I'm not. I would
Well, will
really
you
love
have
this to
enough
take
patience
off.
to allow this to happen?
Yes, I will. I have to have it something that's there now. It's in motion.
Yeah.
It's
So talk to me, if you would, about Julie, about the actual process of publishing.
well, it is very,
an
very
ebook.
difficult.
What
Like
do
I
you
obviously
do?
tried the traditional route,
Yeah.
before. Self-publishing, it probably doesn't have as much stigma now as it used to have.
Oh, it doesn't have a stigma at all.
It's really,
No.
really flourishing now. People have been hugely successful.
Absolutely.
Which is great because it's a great inspiration, and if they can do it, maybe you think, well, maybe there's a chance I can do that as well. And really, maybe what it comes down to is exposure. But so that was a real wrangle for me. It was like I was looking this acceptance, and this verification that yes, you're all right. But it was very, very difficult. And my book, if you can't pigeonhole a book, if you can't say it's this, and this, they want to know what sort of book is. How are we going to market it? Where are you going to slot that in? And a lot of the time then when you were, querying agents and things, they were saying, I just don't see where this is going to go or how, da-da-da. So that was very difficult.
Yeah, you're well away from that.
Yes.
That's
so I
totally
just said, I
debilitating.
weighed on, and I just sort of thought, the freedom of letting the reader decide what's worthy and what's not.
I feel deprived at the moment because I don't have the words in front of me. So I'm going to say to you, at a time of your choosing, come back to the program, bring some hard copy with you.
Yes.
And we'll do a little bit of reading together of it.
Well,
Will we do that?
We definitely will.
And we'll
That'd be
make that
lovely.
happen.
Yes.
So, Julie, my old pupil, my wonderful pupil of university days, I wish you well.
Thank you so much for your time.
And it's great. You
Thank
come
you.
back again.
I
We're
will
gonna do
indeed.
good
Thank you
things.
so much for
God bless
this
you, Julie.
opportunity.
Take
Same
care.
to you.
God love
Thank you.